Okay, if you own property here in Chicago, you probably know this feeling. You've got that classic architecture, maybe some old school charm, but you are just so ready to ditch, like the 1980s tile or those, questionable yellow fixture.
Well, I hear that a lot, absolutely.
And with home values going up in the city, doing a bathroom remodel isn't just about getting something nicer to look at anymore. It feels like a really critical investment. Functionality, future resale.
That's spot on. And it is a major financial commitment, right? So our mission today really is to cut through all the noise out there.
Yeah.
We've dug into the sources to break down the actual costs, the factors you need to think about, so you can confidently plan that bathroom redesign in Chicago for, say, 2025.
We want you to get the why behind the price tag.
Exactly. Not just what it costs, but why it costs that much, especially here in this market.
Okay, let's ground this right away. Numbers. Let's picture a really typical job.
Yeah.
Renovating maybe a standard 50 square foot primary bathroom, maybe in an older Chicago condo.
Good baseline.
What's the immediate, headline number? What should you be thinking about budgeting for just a decent standard renovation?
Okay, the quick takeaway number. You need to know that generally renovation costs are going to range somewhere between, let's say, $12,000 and $35,000.
That's a big range.
It is.
Yeah.
It's vast, yeah. But it captures everything from a pretty basic upgrade all the way to a fully custom primary bath.
Okay.
But for a standard project, what we're seeing lately, the average for 2025 is landing right around $22,000.
$22,000.
Yep. And importantly, that includes both the materials and the skilled Chicago labor you'll need.
Okay, so $22,000. That puts us firmly in the mid-range, it sounds like.
Yeah.
But let's define the edges a bit more. What about that lower end, the small bathroom redesign, maybe closer to that $12,000 floor? What does that look like?
Right. So a small, maybe more targeted redesign in Chicago, usually starts around $8,000. It can climb up to maybe $15,000.
$8,000 minimum.
That $8,000, that's your really budget-friendly path. It assumes you're focusing on efficiency. Maybe a new vanity, some refreshed flooring, new plumbing fixtures.
But crucially,
you're not moving any walls. And you're definitely not moving major plumbing lines. That's key for that lower number.
Gotcha. So it's more of an aesthetic refresh, breathing some life back in, but without needing, structural engineers or heavy-duty trades.
Exactly. Now, on the flip side,
what defines the top end? What gets us moving towards that $50,000 plus luxury territory?
Okay. That higher cost, that means you're looking at a full, comprehensive remodel. Typically, the range there is $15,000 up to $50,000, but honestly, it can easily go beyond that for really high-end custom work.
And that involves?
That's the full gut job, demolition, maybe some structural work, definitely updating or moving everything electrical, those old cast iron drain pipes you find everywhere in older Chicago buildings.
Right, those heavy things.
Yeah, all of it.
That structural piece sounds key. Okay, regardless of the overall scope, you mentioned cost per square foot. That seems like a useful metric for figuring out material quality versus budget. Right?
It is. It's a good way to scale your thinking.
So for our 50 square foot example project, how does that metric work?
Well, it scales pretty dramatically based on the level of finish you choose. Here in Chicagoland, remodels typically run somewhere between $250 and $450 per square foot.
$250 to $450.
Yeah. If you stick with standard, decent finishes, you'll be closer to that $250 mark. But if you start bringing in, say, custom glass, premium stone, complex lighting,
then you shoot up.
You shoot up towards that $450 mark pretty quickly.
Okay, let's unpack this. The cost per square foot gives you a clear sense of how finish level drives the price. So if we run those numbers on our 50-foot bathroom, and we're aiming for a nice sort of mid-grade result, we're looking at a range between, $12,500 and $22,500. Just based on that square footage metric.
That's about right for mid-grade on that size.
That's still a $10,000 swing.
Yeah.
That's huge. So how can we, as the listener, control that? Where's the flexibility?
It really comes down to 4 major cost influencers. Think of them as levers you can pull to manage the investment.
Okay.
The first one you kind of touched on already, size and type of the bathroom.
Right. Primary versus guest bath.
Exactly. A primary bathroom, it's just a bigger investment usually.
Right.
The expectations are higher, right?
Yeah.
You might want more specialized lighting, better storage solutions, maybe space for both a separate tub and shower.
Which adds complexity.
It absolutely drives complexity and cost.
Okay, complexity. That leads right into the second factor you mentioned, the scope of work. We talked about gut jobs versus cosmetic. If we're in an older city building, how much more does it really cost to move fixtures compared to just replacing them where they are.
Well, moving fixtures is probably the single biggest cost accelerator. Huge difference. Yeah. A light cosmetic refresh, the trades are in and out relatively quickly, but a full redesign where you decide, I want to move that toilet just, a foot or two, suddenly you're dealing with potentially decades-old plumbing systems. Maybe you have to cut into those old cast iron drain pipes.
Which you said are tough.
They're heavy, they need specialized labor, special tools. Just changing where that pipe goes can add thousands to your plumbing budget alone, easily.
Wow. Okay, that makes the cost really concrete. Factor 3 then, quality of materials. It's easy to just look at the price tag of the tile or the countertop, but I suspect the real cost driver is installing those fancy materials, isn't it?
You hit it right on the head. Precisely. The cost isn't just the sticker price. It's the labor involved in handling and installing them properly.
Give an example.
Sure. Think about simple subway tile. Relatively cheap to buy, pretty straightforward and quick for a good tile setter to install.
Okay.
Now, compare that to buying, say, large format, custom-cut natural stone slabs or delicate marble tiles.
Right. More fragile, harder to work with.
Exactly. They're sensitive, they need specialized cutting tools, maybe water jets. They take much longer and frankly require higher skilled, more expensive labor to install perfectly without breakage or mistakes.
So choosing high-end material essentially forces you into the high-end labor bracket too.
Pretty much, yes. The two go hand in hand.
Okay, which brings us perfectly to the elephant in the room for Chicago projects, labor costs. Our sources are saying this is a monster factor. Why does labor account for such a huge chunk, 40%, 60% of the total cost specifically here in Chicago?
Yeah, that percentage is real. It's kind of multi-layered. First, Chicago has a high concentration of skilled union tradespeople, plumbers, electricians, carpenters, tile setters. That just generally affects the prevailing wage rates.
Okay, union rates. Makes sense.
Second, renovating an older urban buildings like we've been talking about, it's just inherently more complex.
Yeah.
Well, your contractor might be dealing with logistical challenges, like just getting materials up into a high-rise condo building, or managing strict city inspection schedules. And then there's navigating potentially obsolete infrastructure hidden behind the walls, old wiring, weird plumbing layouts.
Right, surprises.
Lots of potential surprises. That level of skill, experience, and just the logistical maneuvering, it simply costs more here.
So let's take our $20,000 point remodel example again. If labor is 40 to 60%, that means roughly $8,000 to $12,000 of that 20 grand is going directly toward contractor fees, permits, the skilled tradespeople doing the work.
That's exactly the math. It's not just about the price of the faucet. You're paying significantly for the expertise to handle the unique complexities of working in this city.
Wow. Understanding that percentage feels like the most powerful budgeting tool you could have.
It really is. You're investing in quality craftsmanship and project management, which, frankly, in Chicago is non-negotiable if you want the job done right, done safely, and up to code.
Okay, let's use those 4 factors, size, scope, materials, labor, to clearly define the different investment tiers we talked about earlier. We said quality of materials and design intricacy really separate them. So if someone listening is aiming for that middle ground, what specifically defines a mid-range remodel?
A mid-range project, typically priced, let's say, between $18,000 and $28,000, it's really defined by making smart material choices.
That's smart, yeah.
Think durable, well-made, often engineered materials. Things like high-quality quartz countertops instead of maybe marble, good porcelain tile, which can look amazing now, maybe luxury vinyl tile flooring or LVT, and using semi-custom or really well-designed modular vanities instead of fully custom built-ins.
So it looks great, holds up well.
Exactly. It looks fantastic, it's usually easier to maintain, and critically, it utilizes materials that are durable but don't necessarily demand that absolute top tier of labor intensity for installation.
That makes sense. Now, what specific elements push a project past that, squarely over the $50,000 mark and into that luxury remodel category? What are we talking about then?
Okay, luxury is where you see highly customized elements that absolutely require expert handling. Things like heated floors.
Ooh, nice.
Right. But that requires specialized electrical work and careful tiling work over the heating elements. Or maybe expansive walk-in showers with completely custom, heavy glass enclosures.
Stainless glass, that kind of thing.
Precisely. Or custom-built cabinetry designed and constructed specifically for your unique space. And of course, the widespread use of sensitive, premium natural stone like marble or quartzite throughout the room.
So it's a combination of the premium material and the complexity of the custom design and installation.
Exactly. The design intricacy and that selection of premium materials, that's what truly defines the whole experience and character of the space, not just the base price tag.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
The jump isn't just paying more for the tub itself. It's paying for the plumber, the electrician for the radiant heat, the expert tiler for the natural stone floor beneath it.
you got it. It's the whole system.
Okay, absolutely. Now let's pivot to maybe the most actionable part of this whole deep dive. Budgeting wisely, and maybe more importantly, avoiding those dreaded pitfalls that can sink a project budget. Before any hammers start swinging, what are the essential planning steps?
Okay, step one, and this is crucial, especially in a city environment like Chicago. Decide on your layout early. Lock it in.
Why so critical?
Because changing the plan after demolition has started means change orders. And change orders, especially when they involve moving plumbing or electrical in older buildings with potentially rigid structures, lead to massive cost hikes. Avoid it if you can.
Okay, lock the layout. What about finding the right people? Vetting those Chicago experts who, as we said, command that 40–60% labor fee.
Right. You need to get multiple detailed quotes. Don't just look at the final number at the bottom.
What should you look for in the quote?
Compare the line items. How are they breaking down labor versus materials? Is it transparent? And specifically for Chicago, ask potential contractors about their experience dealing with condo association approvals.
Ah, the condo board hurdle.
Exactly. Those approvals often have to be secured before you can even apply for the necessary city permits. An experienced local contractor will know how to navigate that.
Good tip. Okay, so you plan meticulously, you vet your contractor, but things can still go wrong, right? What's the number one financial rule to protect yourself?
It's simple but non-negotiable. You must budget for contingencies. You have to reserve 10 to 15% of your total estimated budget just for surprises.
10 to 15%.
Yes, do not skip this step. If you're planning a $20,000 remodel, you absolutely need to have $2,000 to $3,000 extra set aside ready to go.
And what usually ends up eating that contingency fund? What are those classic hidden costs that pop up?
Well, the biggest one, 9 times out of 10, is finding hidden water damage once you open up the walls or pull up the old floor.
Ugh.
Yeah. Especially in older buildings, it's common to discover, like, 3 layers of old tile, and underneath that, surprise, some rotted subfloor or studs that absolutely have to be replaced structurally before you can move forward.
Okay, water damage. What else?
Another critical hidden cost is realizing midway through that you really need to replace some older existing systems. Maybe upgrading outdated electrical wiring to meet current code, or replacing a section of crumbling drain pipe. It might not have been part of the original bathroom plan, but...
You can't just ignore it once you see it.
Exactly. Modern code might require it, or just future reliability demands it. And don't forget the Chicagoland permit fees. They're necessary for compliance and safety, and they add up.
Okay, that seems like a lot to potentially account for. But I have to ask about something you mentioned earlier. Our sources really emphasize that keeping the plumbing layout as is the single biggest cost-saving strategy.
It generally is, yeah.
But if your building is old and those cast iron pipes are, ancient, is it truly safe or smart to just leave those old systems in place purely to save money on the remodel?
That's a really important question. And it highlights a fundamental trade-off you might face.
How so?
Well, if the current plumbing systems are actually functioning fine, no leaks, good pressure, then yes, keeping them in place will save you significant money on labor and potential structural work. However, if those pipes or that wiring are clearly nearing the end of their functional lifespan, maybe there's visible corrosion, maybe the wiring is cloth covered, then ignoring them just to save money now is really just deferring a potentially much more expensive, messy, and unavoidable emergency repair down the road.
So smart saving isn't always just about the cheapest option today.
Exactly. Smart saving often means understanding that choosing mid-grade tile instead of luxury marble is probably a better place to cut costs than compromising the long-term integrity and reliability of your core plumbing and electrical systems. You really should prioritize functionality and safety before pure aesthetics, especially if the budget is tight.
Okay, that's crucial advice. Functionality first. So if the budget is tight and you've decided maybe not to touch the major systems, where are the other smart, non-structural ways to save?
Right. Well, besides really embracing those durable, attractive, mid-grade finishes we talked about.
Like quartz and porcelain tile.
Exactly. And maybe looking closely at existing fixtures, could that tub be reglazed instead of replaced? Is the toilet relatively new and fine to keep? Beyond that, the smartest thing is really focusing your design efforts around the existing layout.
How does that work in practice?
Let's say you desperately want a really nice, large walk-in shower, but the overall budget is constrained. Okay, maybe you spend the money on higher quality tile and fixtures inside that shower space, make that the feature. But then you'd choose less expensive, simpler options for the rest of the bathroom floor and the vanity area. You're focusing the investment where it gives you the most impact.
That's very practical. It links the material choices directly back to managing that big labor cost component. Okay, let's try to synthesize this. What are the key insights someone planning a Chicago bathroom remodel in 2025 really needs to walk away with?
Yeah, if we connect this all back to the bigger picture, I think the strategy for a successful on-budget Chicago renovation really boils down to two main things. Truly understanding your labor cost percentage and mastering your material choices.
Labor and materials.
Right. So, to recap, the average cost we're seeing is around $22,000. Remember, labor is a huge chunk, 40% to 60% of that total. That means quality work is expensive, but it's pretty much mandatory here.
Non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable. Use that price per square foot range, $250 to $450, as your gauge for how sensitive your costs will be to the finishes you pick. And please, please, always plan for that 10 to 15% contingency fund.
Plan for the surprises.
Planning for surprises is what keeps the dream project from turning into a nightmare. It ensures you actually get that beautiful, functional retreat you deserve in the end.
That clarity definitely makes the whole process feel much more manageable, even tackling it in the, let's face it, complicated Chicago market.
Absolutely. It's doable with good planning.
Yeah.
And maybe as you finalize your own design ideas, consider this final thought building on what we just discussed.
Okay.
Since we know that leaving the plumbing layout untouched is probably the single greatest financial lever you can pull, potentially saving you $5,000, maybe even more, in labor and structural costs.
Right, the biggest saver.
The question to ask yourself is, how much are you really willing to compromise on your absolute ideal primary bathroom flow or that perfect fixture placement in order to gain that significant savings? That decision, that specific trade-off between your ideal design vision and financial efficiency. That's often the true defining factor in whether your final project cost lands closer to $15,000 or pushes up towards $30,000 or more.
Design flexibility versus budget reality. That's the crux of it.
It really is. Something to mull over as you plan.